put basic inline skin traction on. So we've got pictures on the site that show you what type of kit you need and the equipment you need. So I'm just going to demonstrate how to put it on. So the type of fractures that we might manage this in skin traction is children with femur fractures, adults with neck-femur fractures, femur fractures, and probably periprosthetic fractures are the ones. The key thing to look at is you still have to look after the skin integrity, so you need to observe the skin on a daily basis, and if you've got someone who's got very poor or broken skin, it might be advisable not to use it. So it's best to work in pairs. Obviously we've got a lovely willing participant who's going to lift her leg and do things, but we're going to come and demonstrate it in a way as if you've got someone who's not really helpful, so it takes two of you to do it. So Jo, could you just move up the bed just a little bit? Okay, so get the bed height up to suit both of you. I'm really short, so it's got to be my height rather than a very tall person's. And make sure obviously the leg's exposed. Jo's very kindly given her our leg, but you do normally have access to the back of the knee and above the leg. So there's lots of evidence about it to suggest that traction, there's no difference if it finishes at the knee or goes above it, but we tend to do it above, and it allows for some slippage. So make sure the skin's good. If the skin's good to go, then expose the leg. I try and make sure that I've got as much of it set up as I can. So good practice is to get everything in place so that you minimise the amount of time you have to lift the leg, because for a normal patient with a femur fracture it will be excruciating, so you need to make sure that they've got good pain relief on board before you do it. So at the bottom of the traction tuck there is a plastic disc, which is obviously very hard. So the main aim of traction is to make sure that when you've put it on that you're not actually starting to bandage it up right there, because you're going to end up causing a pressure point on the bottom of the foot. So the idea is you're meant to look at possibly starting with about the size of the roll of your bandage away, so that allows when the foot drops down that it's not rubbing on it. So you have to kind of size it up and hope that the person's helping you is not going to pull it too much. There's padding on the inside of it, which will obviously protect the malleola and the more prominent bony pieces, but it's not padded all the way up. The only difference between adult and children is the children has an adhesive strip, so it sticks to the legs. So place it where you want it, about the bandage size away from the bottom of the foot to allow for the foot to drop down. Obviously it's got to evenly cover the outside of the leg. If you've got someone with very, very big legs, it doesn't matter, you're not going to have so much coverage. If you've got a lady with very small, slim legs, it's going to kind of wrap around most of it. So what you need to do is get rid of the clip-on here. Don't ever fix it, because you could end up with someone who's got peripheral, what am I looking for? Neuropathy. You might get the pin in it and they won't know what's going on. So bearing in mind where the fracture is, you don't really want to be someone holding right onto it. So if you've got someone with a periprosthetic fracture, it's best to hold onto the leg mid-thigh and sort of just above the ankle. Obviously if you've got someone with a mid-femur fracture, it's going to be quite difficult to not put it on there. So always talk to the patient, explain what you're going to do, and be mindful of where you're holding the leg. When you start bandaging, you always start bandaging at the Achilles area, about 1 finger away from the Achilles area. And what you do is you do 2 wraps to fasten it, and then you do sort of like a 50-50 wrap over, which I'll show you. So if someone's helping you, it's not very helpful if they're holding onto the Achilles, because that's where you've got to start. So someone might then need to support the thigh and maybe just hold the toes until you get wrapping. Okay, would you be happy to? So make sure that you've given me enough for the leg just to slip down, about the size of a bandage. Okay, is that okay for you? Right, can you just pull onto them 2 pieces to give them a bit of tension for me without pulling it too much there? Can I just see where the thing is? Yeah. Just
happy?
No, because that's a bit scrunched up there. Okay, yeah. Right, so it's not got to be perfect because you're trying to do it one-handed. So if you imagine that the Achilles area is just underneath my thumb, you're going to wrap with quite a bit of tension. This has got a good stretch on it, so don't cut the circulation, but make sure you wrap it quite tight. So 2 basic wraps, making sure that the foam's either side of the leg, and then with a little bit of tension, you have to wrap 50-50. So where you've made one line, you can see one line's covered and then the other one's just a single layer. So you just cover over that. And then you start a figure of 8. And the reason being is you can actually pull the bandage back to look at the skin integrity if you need to. So Jo's been very helpful, but bearing in mind most people might be screaming, so just do it as quickly as you can. So you bandage up to the knee, but you should never bandage at the back of the knee because the perineal nerve, you don't want to cause that any damage. So I tend to take the bandage and offer it up and round the leg and then fasten at the top so that you're not bandaging directly under the knee. Obviously there's not normally trousers in the way, but it's only really got to go just above the thigh. Oh, sorry, Jack. Perfect. Okay, if we put the leg down, it gives the patient a chance to just recover from that. Okay, can I get you to just hold that? So you can cut off the excess. I haven't got any scissors with me, or you can tuck it in just so washing and toileting's easier. Oh, thank you. And then if you find that you've got someone with a really big thigh and you've only managed to take it to below the knee, just put your finger on it, my love. You can use 2 bandages, but just repeat the whole process 2 times. So just fasten where you can, just to keep it fixed. Right. So the patient's got the bandage on the leg. You can feel under the Achilles area, make sure it's not too tight, but just make sure the patient's got sensation. You know that you've wrapped it with enough to allow for the foot to drop and it's not going to cause any pressure. It's starting around about the Achilles area, it's going up to the knee, but it's not at the back of the knee, and then it's offered up around the thigh. So the most important thing to do for me is it comes with 2, so it's like a double length, and it comes with sort of a very long piece of string. Now I prefer to just have 1 piece of string rather than double. If you're putting it through the pulley, there's more chance of it getting knotted or twisted and stopping the patient moving up and down the bed. So I tend to take it all down. This is just the way I've been taught, but take it just down to 1 piece of string and put lots of knots in the bottom just to fix it. How were you taught, Jo? So, yeah. So get everything done, all the bandaging done, the patient comfy and everything. Sometimes you've got people who are really tall. So if you've got a gentleman, for example, who's 6 foot, might be off the end of the bed. So you might need to extend the bed just to give more counter traction or make sure the patient's really up the bed. So you might move jog a little bit. So lots of knots, 1 piece of string, legs bandaged, patient's relatively comfortable. The only other thing I would tend to do is, because the patient naturally slips down the bed with a weight, even if it's only £5, is to try and put the end of the bed up and put a pillow underneath the leg to cause some counter traction. So a slim, flat pillow is best, and your assistant are going to help. So you need to get it as high up into the groin and the top of the thigh as possible, and allow it to end before the Achilles so the foot is free of the bed. Okay? So lift it up, place it in if you can, but make sure the patient's foot is off the bed, and you'll see you've got a little bit of counter traction. And then what you need to do is lift the end of the bed up as well. Okay. There we go. Okay, just so the patient can sit up, but just so you've got some counter traction to pull the body towards the head of the bed. Right, okay. So sometimes you get people whose legs have a tendency to roll in or roll out. When you place the pulley on the end of the bed, you can place the pulley wherever you want to create the leg. So if the leg's rolling out to the right, bring the pulley more over to the opposite side, or if it's rolling in, you need to get it in best alignment, so it's just a case of placing it. Right, now for the equipment. It's easier if you've got two of you. So, do you want to go on the other side then? So you need the end of the bedpost, they go into the round hole. Two of them in first. Then you need two clamps, one for your colleague, one for yourself, and one along the bar. So just make sure that you've got it opposite way round, please. So if you put it on the outside, it gives you much more counter traction, and it allows, if you've got somebody who's very tall, it just gives you down a little bit. So you need to roughly have it the same length. You don't have to have it at the top because it's too high for pulling the leg out. So roughly about 6 inches down. And then you turn the clamps so they're really, really tight. If I explain with this one, when you turn it clockwise, it tightens the clamp so it doesn't move. And then to undo it, you turn it anti-clockwise, but you have to turn it enough to be able to undo it. Okay? So then this goes across. You got much there? You got too much there because I haven't got very much on mine. Can you give me a little bit more? Right. Okay. Right. Just make sure they're really tight. Last thing you want them to do is to fall off and cause some pain. Right, so Joe's leg's nice, in nice alignment, it's really straight. So the only other thing to do is to put the pulley down on the end of the bed. Yeah, sorry. Just make sure this all works as good as you like before. Perfect. So the pulley has to be in line. Sorry if I didn't explain it right. So if Joe's leg was rolling in, what you'd do is you'd bring the pulley over to the left-hand side of the bed to counteract it. And oppositely, if it was rolling out and you wanted to pull it more centrally, you bring the pulley over this side. She's got a beautiful straight leg. So you can turn this around. If you've got someone who's really tall, the most important thing is to get it as far out of the bed as you can, pull the bed out, make sure that the traction's moving out this way, and bring the pulley as far around as you can. If you bring it in like that, you've not got very much counter traction. So I always tend to bring it out as much as I can. And the same, screw that in tight. Right. Only other thing to do now is to just explain how to put the weights on. So the most important thing is that the pulley has to be far enough away from the end of the foot. Now Joe's quite far down the bed, so ideally she'd be better moved off. The most important thing is if the foot and the knot is on the pulley, you've got no traction. If the weight's on the floor, you've got no traction. So the important thing is to get the fine balance between the two. So Joe's very kindly positioned herself in a really good way. So we've got a good sort of 6 inches she could slide down the bed before the traction stops working. So there's 3 different types of weight. You've got the old-fashioned hanger. There you go. Which you can get different weights that slot onto it. You've got the sandbags, which is much better because you can clean them, wash them, and they're just much easier than the old-fashioned ones. And that's 2.27 kilograms or £5. This is a £5 weight as well. Or we've got the more modern slimline ones, and that's exactly the same weight. It's 2.25 kilograms or £5. So any one of them that you can find. I prefer the sandbags, but we'll show you both. So with your helper, the most important thing to do is to kind of work out roughly where you need it. If I was to fix it here, there's a chance that the moment it moves, you're not going to get any traction, so you need it further down. If I tied it here, it only takes maybe 1 inch, and then the weight's on the floor, and that's creating no traction either. So it's getting that fine line between not too close to the pulley and not too close to the floor. So what I would do is ask my colleague to hold the traction band about there, and then you just need to tie it on. So throw it through the hole, and then make sure you're happy with it, because once you tie the knot, you're committed. And then there's no special knots or reef knots or anything like that, just literally, it's quite shiny fabric, so make sure you do at least 4 or 5 knots just so it doesn't slip, because it's painful on the patient's leg if it does. Okay, and then just warn the patient that you're going to put the weight on and they might feel a bit of a pull. So just might pull a little bit. And then you can see that the weight's far enough off the floor and further enough away from that, so you can always cut the excess string off. Make sure the patient's comfortable. Does that feel okay? Obviously check your pulses to make sure that you haven't wrapped the legs so tight that they've got no blood flow. Move your feet for me. Does that feel quite comfortable? And that's about it. So that's the sandbag. So this one works in exactly the same way. Should we just demonstrate the... Okay. So the most important thing is the patient can move up and down the bed. So the idea is you never take the weight off, because that will cause them some pain, especially if you're putting it on someone with an acetabular fracture. So the idea is Jo can move herself up the bed, and it comes with her, it's called on the bottom, and you can slide yourself down and it moves. So that's the way it should be free falling. So always, whatever you do, if you have to swap the patient onto an air mattress or they have to go for scan, make sure that you take the weight off. Don't just put it on the end of the bed, because if that falls off with the porters, that's going to hurt if it falls on the floor. So always be responsible for the weight. So I would always, if they've got to go to scan, x-ray, and they're going to be off the ward at some point, don't rely on someone knowing what to do with it, just take it off and then you can put it back on. Otherwise the rule is, can I get you to hold it? Mm-hmm. Otherwise the rule is never take it off, it should move with the patient up and down the bed.
Expertly done, sorry.
Yeah, see, it can slip.
You've tied it too well.
That's the whole toy. Right. Okay, so we get rid of that. So this is slightly different, that's why it's quite harder to do. So the same sort of thing, what you need to do is consider that that's where the string's going to sit. So not too close to the pulley, not too close to the floor, so roughly about there. Yeah. Right, you can take it away. And take it away. So then what you need to do is make a loop. So I take it, run my hand, offer it up over my finger, and then make myself a loop, and then do the same, 3 or 4 knots at least, just to fix it, so it doesn't slip. But you have to tie the knot before you can put the weight fully on, and then it's easy enough to take on and off once you've done this. It's a bit like a slip knot there. Okay, so just a knot. So then you ask your colleague to hold the weight for you. So then you offer it around and down a little bit, and then I tend to sit it up in that loop. Same again, let your patient know that they might feel a pull, just a slight pull, and then your hands are the same, you can count fixes. So you can put any number of weight according to the size of the person and the injury. We tend to use the £5 bags for pretty much everyone. With acetabular fractures you can have anywhere up to £15, but in this system it would be pulling the patient down, so there's another method to show you. Other than that, unless you've got a child, and we have bags that are £1 and £2, or if you've got a very slight elderly person who weighs maybe say 150 kilograms, you might want to put a slightly smaller weight on, but generally the bog standard is a £5. Okay?